So let's begin with a big question among many political observers. Where is the House GOP budget? The governor's budget has been filed and is assigned to Appropriations and Revenue, House Bills 303 and 304. But that committee has yet to meet this session and will not meet this Tuesday. House Speaker David Osborne told me he expects the budget to be filed within the next week. This week, a public education coalition largely responsible for the campaign against 2024 school choice funding amendment met at the Capitol to call on lawmakers to increase K-12 funding by $718 million a year, arguing it's the same cost as the half-point income tax cuts the legislature has passed in recent years.
When parents, educators, and students name what they are living, overcrowded classrooms, underpaid staff, rising costs, and communities stretched thin, we can move past political talking points and focus on what actually helps families.
Advocates and lawmakers continue to debate if current education funding meets inflation-adjusted amounts compared to previous years. In a statement to Fox 56 News, House Speaker David Osborne wrote, quote, "The House has provided historic levels of funding even after adjusting for inflation, and we will continue to support education." So last budget was a $128 billion total plan. Education gets a big chunk of that. We saw increases to the seek per pupil base by 3% for fiscal year 25, 6% for fiscal year 26 in the last budget. Now, this group that just spoke, they did not give a specific percentage that they'd like to see in this next budget, but they want to see teacher raises, full transportation funding, and so on. Does that increase, decrease, or stay the same in this next budget? Representative Moore.
Well, we haven't seen the House version of it yet, but we saw the governor's version, and he did put in there the seek increase. He saw also the call for a 7% income increase for not just our teachers, but for all of our school staff as well, whether that's your bus drivers, the person who's opened the doors there in the morning. So we've seen that come through, but I do worry about those in leadership if they're going to play partisan politics with this and say the governor wants it, so we're not going to give it to him. But I hope that we find a way forward without the political noise to make sure that our students have what they need and the educators have what they deserve.
Representative Roberts, how are some of these requests landing among Republicans?
Well, Bodie, one of the primary issues of the budget, the reason why we are looking at an introduction of it within the next week, is that our A&R chairman, Chairman Petrie, is meticulous in his methodology of making sure that our budget is data-driven. It complies with our balanced budget requirement, and that we are truly addressing the needs of Kentuckians. So as these proposals come in, we wanted to wait to hear from the governor, to hear what he was looking for, how much money we have available, so that way we can then focus on it, especially in this time of economic uncertainty. I think what Kentuckians are looking for largely is stability. So as we weigh these issues, I would expect to see an economically responsible budget that complies with our requirement for a balanced budget. And as these proposals come through, we just have to make sure, and I will agree with my colleague, that we should not be focusing on partisan presidential campaign talking points. We should be focusing on the actual needs of Kentuckians to make sure that we have efficiently run government.
What are the rumblings right now of maybe some different areas of the budget that are some sticking points that may be still being decided on right now that may have led to, I don't want to call it a delay, so to speak, but we've still not seen it yet. So what are the areas still being hammered out?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a delay at all, especially when you look to the 2024 budget session. The week that is coming, it lines up perfectly with what week we're going into this coming week. So it's actually quite consistent with how we have done this. So it's just making sure that we have all the information. One thing I personally want to see, I want to see us get closer to zero-based budgeting. In the 2024 budget, we only voted on 7% of the spending by line item. And then the next fiscal year, it was 86%. So we've got an improvement. But we're only voting on 14% for this current fiscal year. I want to make sure that the legislature takes back its power of the purse that it has in our Constitution and make sure that we're truly going penny by penny, because it's not our money that we're spending, it's the taxpayers' money. So, and that obviously takes more time. I actually I appreciate the slow and steady approach to ensure that whatever budget we have is the most fiscally responsible budget that we can produce.
What do you think of that, Representative Moore?
Well, as far as like things getting held up or where there might be a conflict or a bit of friction, I want to make sure that we're keeping the politics out of it and we're putting Kentuckians first. And one thing that you've seen a lot of talking points is that with the budget in Washington, we're seeing less funds here in the state for SNAP, for Medicaid. I think it's been overblown as far as the number of hospitals that would close, but a loss of funding that goes to our rural hospitals. And so I would like a budget that makes sure that we don't have Kentuckians going hungry who don't need to be, going unseen for medical issues who don't need to be, because we can address those at the state level, and let's make sure that we take care of those Kentuckians, even if the partisanship in D.C. tries to interfere with that.
Among those things you listed, there's been a lot of conversation from leaders on Medicaid. We had an entire advisory board that was meeting over the interim on this, and in their findings, they argue that any budget growth in Medicaid is unsustainable right now. We've got just about a minute left here, so very quickly, does the budget result in more cleanup or more cuts, and how do you sort of navigate the relationship you got to straddle there?
One thing I want to just dive in, I'll be real quick so my colleague can go as well, is the MAHA task force I served on. We looked at ways for more holistic wellness. How can we keep people healthier, keep people from getting sick? If we can make Kentucky a healthier state, that will result in less healthcare expenses down the road. I'd like to see us take some lessons learned from that.
Last word on this, Representative Roberts.
I agree fully on MAHA as a means to help us get SNAP and Medicaid under control. Further, though, we have to look to the fact that the auditor identified more than $800 million in Medicaid waste. And this isn't the type of waste that we can talk about on a partisan. This is people who are enrolled in multiple states for Medicaid, people who are deceased getting Medicaid payments. That $800 million, that in itself would have been enough to cut the income tax an additional half point, or to put it toward other programs that are necessary in the Commonwealth. So I think the cleanup and the cutting can go hand in hand, especially whenever we focus on waste and we focus on making Kentucky healthier.
All right, guys, thanks for the discussion.